5:32 p.m. ETplayAaron Rodgers gets hit by Anthony Barr and exits early with a broken collarbone in Green Bay's 2,310 loss to Minnesota. Minneapolis file this under the Captain Obvious tab, but the Minnesota Vikings faced a completely different Packers team once linebacker Anthony Barr knocked All-Pro quarterback Aaron Rodgers out of the game on Green Bay's second drive. The entire dynamic shifted in Minnesota's favor, allowing the Vikings to earn their second straight victory in a 2,310 win Sunday over Green Bay at US Bank Stadium. The biggest hit the Vikings took was when Barr sustained a concussion at some point in the first half and was ruled out before the third quarter started. The same can't be said for the Packers, who came into the game already thin in their defensive backfield and piled up more injuries, leaving them with third-stringers in the secondary. Minnesota did what it had to do when facing the Packers at nowhere near full strength. It dominated defensively, showed it has figured out the best way to approach its committee of running backs, and grabbed a critical NFC North win. What it means with Rodgers possibly out for the year with a broken collarbone, the NFC North picture changes dramatically. Minnesota has secured division wins against Chicago and Green Bay in the past 2 weeks. Minnesota had all three NFC North opponents in back-to-back weeks and only lost to Detroit, which it will face again on Thanksgiving. Rodgers' injury alters everything. The Packers will no longer be considered the clear favorite to win the division if he is out for the season. Suddenly, Minnesota has an improved shot to capture its first NFC North crown since 2015. Case Keenum went 24 of 38 for 239 yards and a touchdown, with one interception. Bryce Hemilgar said Today Sports. What I liked, the Vikings have used Jerick McKinnon's explosiveness incredibly well in their past 2 victories and have their committee approach nailed down as they navigate the rest of the year without Dalvin Cook. Latavius Murray started at running back and had some big gains early, but just like in Week 5, McKinnon provided the spark Minnesota needed. McKinnon scored rushing and receiving touchdowns, the third time in his career he's had 2 scores in a game, and had the hot hand throughout, leading him to finish as the team's leading rusher, 16 carries for 69 yards. What I didn't like the game is better when Rodgers is playing. Every time you looked up, it felt like the Packers were dealing with another injured player on the field. Minnesota won and is now 42, and at the end of the day that's all that matters. But we don't truly get to evaluate them in a game where they faced one of the league's best teams at far less than full strength. Fantasy fallout: McKinnon was a popular waiver wire pickup this week, and he delivered for fantasy owners, with 99 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. With Stephon Diggs out with a groin injury, Adam Thielen nearly cracked 100 yards receiving as Minnesota's top pass catcher. On the other side, it was expected that Xavier Rhodes would shadow Jordy Nelson, as he's covered the opponent's top receivers throughout the first 5 weeks of the season. Instead, Rhodes shadowed Devont Adams, who had a touchdown in the first half, while Trey Waynes handled Nelson for most of the game. Statistics Scoreboard 2017 Schedule Results Standings Lock. When Treadwell breaks through, it's been a tough 2 years for the former first-round pick, but with Diggs out, Treadwell knew he was going to see more action. He registered a huge block early on and had a jaw-dropping one-handed catch in the third quarter that was arguably the best reception of the day. The second-year receiver finished with 3 catches for 51 yards, and he nearly got the ball back for Minnesota after Clay Matthews recovered a McKinnon fumble in the second quarter. Sackfest: Everson Griffin reached a career milestone 6 straight games with a sack when he took Packers backup Brett Hundley down late in the game. Harrison Smith was killer on the blitz, registering 1.5 sacks and an interception. You can't say enough about Minnesota's defense, which held the Packers to 14 first downs and 72 yards rushing. What's next this week could be interesting for the Vikings' quarterback situation. Teddy Bridgewater is eligible to come off the physically unable to perform list after Week 6, which means he could return to practice this week. Once he's taken off the PUP list, Minnesota has 21 days to activate him to the 53-man roster. It's a big deal in the short and long term for the Vikings, whose QB situation remains murky with no timetable on Sam Bradford's return.